We've covered the branch that makes laws, Congress, and the branch that enforces them, the President. Now we're at Article 3, the Judicial Branch. This is the referee branch. Its entire job is to interpret the law. Think of the Constitution as the rule book of a game. The judicial branch is the umpire who gets to make the close calls and decide what the rules actually mean in a specific situation. The first thing you have to understand is that we have a dual court system. It's like having two separate ladders, side by side. The state court ladder handles 99% of all cases. Think traffic tickets, divorces, business contracts, and most crimes. The federal court ladder only hears cases about federal laws, like bank robbery or counterfeiting, or cases that challenge the U.S. Constitution itself. Let's look at the federal ladder. It's a simple three-level pyramid. At the bottom, you have the district courts. These are the trial courts. In the middle, you have the circuit courts of appeals, which are the review courts. And at the very top, the final boss of the entire legal system is the Supreme Court of the United States. A case must climb this pyramid, one level at a time. The base of the pyramid is the U.S. District Court. This is the only court in the federal system that works like the ones you see on TV. It's where the case begins. It's where you have a jury, where witnesses testify, and where lawyers present evidence. If you break a federal law, this is where your trial will be held. There are 94 of them, so everyone has access to one. Okay, so you had your trial in the district court, and you lost. What now? You can appeal to the next level, the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals. But this is not a new trial. You don't get a jury or call new witnesses. An appeal is like asking the instant replay booth to check the referee's call. A panel of 3 judges just reviews the written record from your trial to see if the first judge made a legal error. If you lose again at the circuit court, your last and final stop is the Supreme Court, often called SCOTUS. They are the court of last resort. Their decision is final. There is no appeal. The court is made up of 9 members, called justices. There is 1 Chief Justice, who acts as the leader and spokesperson, and 8 associate justices. So how do you get one of the most powerful jobs in the country? It's a classic example of checks and balances. First, the president gets to nominate someone when a seat opens up. But the president doesn't get the final say. The Senate must then hold hearings, question the candidate, and vote to confirm them. This check prevents a president from just appointing anyone they want. Here's the most unique part of the job. Justices are appointed for life. The Constitution says they serve during good behavior. This is not a job for life, so they can be lazy. It's to protect them. The founders wanted the justices to be above politics. They can make the correct constitutional decision, even if it's wildly unpopular, without any fear of being fired by the president or voted out by the people. Now we get to the court's real power. It's their superpower, and it's called judicial review. This is the power for the Supreme Court, or any federal court, to look at a law passed by Congress or an action taken by the president and say, "Nope, this violates the Constitution. It is null and void." This is the ultimate referee move, and it's the biggest check the judicial branch has on everyone else. But if you read Article 3, the words judicial review are nowhere to be found. So where did this superpower come from? It came from a famous case in 1803 called Marbury v. Madison. The Chief Justice, John Marshall, wrote the court's opinion. In it, he basically declared that the court had this power, arguing that it's the court's job to say what the law is. And it stuck. What does interpreting the Constitution actually mean? The Constitution uses broad, simple language. It says the Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches. What does that mean for a text message or a Facebook post? The founders in 1787 had no idea. The court's job is to take those big ideas from the Constitution and apply them to new technologies and new problems. The Supreme Court is not required to hear your case. In fact, they refuse almost everyone. They get about 8,000 petitions a year. To ask them to hear your case, you file a writ of certiorari. Then, the 9 justices vote on which cases to take. They use the rule of 4. If 4 of the 9 justices think the case is important enough, they will grant cert, and the case will be heard. This is the part you see in movies, but it's not what you think. Oral arguments are not a big, dramatic speech. Each side's lawyer gets 30 minutes, but the moment they start talking, the justices pounce. They interrupt with questions, challenging every point. What about this? What about that precedent? They are trying to find the weakest link in the lawyer's argument. After the arguments, the justices go into a room, lock the door, and meet in total secret. This is the conference. They debate the case, and then they go around the table and vote. No one else is allowed in. No notes, no aides. This is where the real decision is made. The side that gets at least 5 of the 9 votes wins. The vote isn't the end. The court has to explain its decision. This is the opinion. It's a long written document that explains the legal why. The majority opinion is the one written by a justice on the winning side. This document is the official ruling. It is the law. It sets the precedent for the entire country. But what about the losers? A justice who is in the minority can write a dissenting opinion. This is their chance to explain, the majority is wrong and here's why. These dissents are famous because sometimes, decades later, the court will reverse itself and the new majority opinion will be based on that old dissent. There are also concurring opinions, which just mean, I agree with the final score, but I got there a different way. The most important part of an opinion is that it sets a precedent. A precedent is a rule that all other lower courts, state and federal, must follow. When the court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that segregated schools were unconstitutional, that became the precedent for the whole nation. This is how the Supreme Court, by deciding just one case, can change the law for all 330 million Americans. How should a judge do their job? There are 2 main philosophies. Judicial restraint is the idea that a judge should be very cautious. They should restrain themselves and avoid striking down laws unless it's an obvious violation. They believe in sticking only to the literal text. Judicial activism is the opposite. It's the idea that judges should be active and use their power to fix society's problems, viewing the Constitution as a living document. The court is powerful, but it isn't all-powerful. The other 2 branches have checks on it. The president gets to appoint all the justices. The Senate gets to confirm all the justices. If the court makes a decision Congress hates, Congress can pass a new law or even try to pass a constitutional amendment to overrule the court, which is what happened with the 16th Amendment on income tax. But the court has one giant weakness. It has no army. It has no money. It has 0 power to enforce its own decisions. If the Supreme Court rules that all schools must desegregate, they have to rely on the president, the executive branch, to send in troops and enforce that ruling. The court's power is ultimately built on the trust and respect of the people and the other branches.